Hey, hello fellow traveler. Have you ever wanted to start backpacking but you don't know where to start? Come with me. In this video, I'll provide a step-by-step guide to kickstart your first desert adventure. This video is for the beginning backpacker who wants to know the absolute essentials so they can start experiencing and having fun in the American Southwest. Let's get it. These are the basic components we'll be covering today. These are all aspects of backpacking that a beginner must understand, and also what to expect when going out into the wilderness for the first time. And it'll provide a good starting point for someone who wants to get outside. Now, before we go out and hit the trail, we need to learn how to plan. Planning is the first and most crucial step in ensuring that our trip is fun, organized, and safe. So we'll be reviewing a quick guide on how to plan and what to plan for on your next adventure. Hey guys, here's the trip planning guide. So here are some different things you should plan on before you embark on your trip. This will keep everything organized, safe, and maximize the fun. So the first thing you want to decide is whether or not you want to fit the group to the route or fit the route to the group. So let's say you want to do a route, but it's pretty challenging. You want to pick a group that is capable of completing that route. And let's say you have a group of people with differing skill levels. You want to pick a route that is manageable for every single member within that group. Okay, so the first thing you want to identify and plan for is the group. You can always pause and look at each individual bullet point. However, I'm just going to run through it pretty quickly. So you want to understand its size, find out its size, people's availability, the group skill level, its fitness, as this will all play into which route you want to choose, medical conditions you need to be aware of. And this group dynamics is key because some people can not get along on the trail. It can make the trip super not fun. Location and weather. Always investigate the location's availability. See if the trails are up. If you have to buy permits, look at the recent weather and future weather to pack clothing, equipment, etc. Parking. See if there's any parking or if you have to pay for parking. Identify how far it is. Equipment and food. List out all the equipment you believe you need after you decide on a location. And then find out the equipment everyone has, so you then know what equipment you need. And here's all the equipment list. This is key because you don't want to be out there and then find out that two people don't have enough clothes or enough food, and you want to make sure you have enough food and water. Which is why you plan out the group first, so you know how much to bring. Costs. You want to get this done beforehand. You do not want to figure out costs during the trip or after the trip. It can get quite, let's just say, awkward when no one knows how much they need to pay for, how much they need to pay, and you need to divvy it up accordingly and responsibly. And yeah, so identify travel costs, permits, food, equipment needed, as it can add up depending on how big the group is. Trip logistics. Here you can find out the trail you want to pick, depending on the group's ability, find its difficulty, locate some campsite locations beforehand, water resupply stations, and plan some activities you want to do, and then find out the estimated time of how long the trip will take. And safety. Practice first aid. You don't want to practice it on the trail. And share your location and trip plan with at least two people who are not going on the trail, because they will be able to notify authorities if you're not back in time, and let's say, for example, you get lost. So these are the basic principles of planning and different parts you should plan for. Again, you can. First up, equipment. You're going to need, obviously, a backpack, clothing, water bottle, and water filtration, first aid, a tent or a tarp, sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, a fire kit or a lighter, navigation tools such as a map and compass or a GPS, food, a cooking system, a knife, and some rope. Alright guys, so this is my equipment inventory. This is what I would deem to be the bare essentials to start to go out into the desert and to the wilderness to start to have a good time. Now, I made a division right here. For this side is if you are on a tight budget and you just want to use the bare essentials and you want to be able to go out as soon as possible and save money, but do so in a safe, relatively safe manner. This is what I would deem adequate to protect yourself enough so where you can go out and stay overnight safely. Now the rest is what I would consider essential. I wouldn't go on a overnight without these. However, some people do like to do ultralight backpacking, which is where they go just take the essentials. But this is what I would deem also essential for me. You don't need to get this. However, if you have the extra means and funds too, I would highly recommend this. One is food. You can always pack in your own food, or you can go on a fast. However, I want to replenish my energy. A backpack, a tent, my apologies. A tent, I feel much safer being inside my own tent and off the ground and to where no critters can get in, although they can, but it's much harder for them to get in. I don't have to worry about creepy crawlies. One is rope, has many uses. Incredible tool to build shelter, especially with the tarp. Next is a blanket, poncho. You never know, heavy rain, it can fight hypothermia, keep you warm. I always bring them with me. And next is cooking. I always bring a stove. It's a little stove where you put it on here and then it lights up. And you can boil water, cook food, and have some little pot and cutlery, and then a GPS device. These are quite expensive, which is why if you don't have one, it's okay, but it is good to have so you can call for emergency help, or you can call relatives and loved ones and know where you're going. Starting off with the backpack, it might be quite intimidating for a beginner to look at some backpacking bags, and you can they often have a lot of straps and a bunch of stuff going on, and it might be quite intimidating, and it is important to find the right fitting bag. So I'm going to discuss how to put a bag on and how to secure it to your body so you can fit heavier loads into the bag, and also determine whether or not the bag is a good fit for you. Starting with the parts of the bag, this is the straps. This is the straps that go across your chest. This is called the hip belt that wraps around your hips. And here is different another strap as well called the sternum strap. It lays flat across. And then the shoulder strap. So I'll demonstrate how to put on a bag and how to fit it correctly. So first off, you put it on, get it on. Put the hip belt around your waist. And the first strap you cinch up is these side straps. So what you want to do is you want to pull down and away. So I take these two straps, I pull down and away, and then it cinches up around my torso, my chest, and the side of my rib cage. And then after securing that, I get the hip belt, then I lock them, and then I cinch that up as well. What this hip belt does is it moves most of the weight, 60 to 70% of the weight, onto my hips, on top of my pelvic crest, which is extremely important for you to be carrying heavier loads for longer and more comfortable. And then what we will get next is the sternum strap. We will lock it, and then pull nice and snug. Ideally, we don't want the sternum strap too high, and we don't want it too low. We want it just around 2 to 3 inches below your collarbone. And then what you can also do, the last strap to cinch, is the shoulder strap. You just give this a nice tug towards the ground in front of you. And what this does is it conforms the backpack around your shoulders and brings the weight even closer to your spine. So here I have the bag all cinched up, nice and secure, and you can adjust it as you see fit. So that is how you put on a backpacking bag. And how you know if you have the right size bag is, one, the hip belt. So the hip belt should be sitting, so you have the top of your bone, your hip bones right here on your pelvic crest. And what you want the hip strap to cover around 50%. Some like it 60% above, 40% below, and some may like it vice versa. So like 40% above the crest and 60% below. However, I find a good rule of thumb, just for a beginner who doesn't know what they like at first, is to have the hip belt cover 50-50. So the pelvic crest lands right in the middle of your hip belts. That's a good indication, as it provides the best comfort. And also, we want to make sure that our frame isn't too high. So right here, although it's hitting, we don't want it so high that, you know, it's like hitting our head, and we don't want it so low to where these shoulder straps are like sagging. Another way to test it out, if you can, is whenever you're testing out a bag, is to put some weight in it. Walk around the store, walk up a flight of stairs if the store has one. I would suggest 10, 15, even 20 pounds, because that allows you to get a better idea of how it feels like on your torso and your hips when you have a load and you're moving around. Next, shelter. So there's different ways to build shelter in the wild. Some people like to use tarps, some people like hammocks. I prefer a tent, as it's just simpler. And although there's many ways to build a shelter with a tarp, that requires more knowledge on knots and rope work. So we're not going to discuss that. And besides, in the desert, there's not many trees to tie structures to, which is okay. So today, for this video, and to keep it simple, we'll just focus on a freestanding tent. We'll work on this one, and I'll show you how to place a tent on the desert where the ground is really hard and rocky. So let's get stuck in. You got your tent out, nice. You got the footprint out, nice and spaced out. However, when you go to put in your stakes, you will notice that the ground is extremely hard and rough, and it's going to take a lot of force and effort to get these driven into the ground. And you don't want to do that because you can ruin your stakes. So, as you can see, I have pinned down the staking points and the guy lines with rocks. This is an excellent way to stake down a freestanding tent in a way where it pins the tent down effectively and efficiently, and it's been proven to withstand up to 40-mile-per-hour winds. So I'll teach you how to do this right now. So the first step to doing this is to learn how to tie a basic snare. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bight, so a little loop, not loop, but turn in the rope. It's called a bight. We're going to get this end, the working end, and we're going to wrap it over the standing end, over and under. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to lift this loop we just made, and we're going to feed this loop through. Okay, so we went over and under, then we're going to lift this loop up and feed the working end through, and then tighten it. And once you completed that, you will now have a basic snare, to where when you pull on it, the snare tightens and it won't let go. This is the first step. After we've just got our snare nice and ready, we are going to go find a rock. Okay, found a rock. We want it to be around this size, around medium size, and elongated, like a rectangular would be best. Now let's find another big rock. Then you're gonna find a bigger rock. Remember, don't use your hands. And you find a nice big heavy rock. And pair it up with a smaller one. Now that we have our snare and we have our 2 rocks, we're gonna get the smaller rock and we're gonna put it in the snare and we're gonna cinch it up nice and tight. Okay, get it nice and tight. Push the knot in towards the rock. Okay, and we're gonna lay down the ground and we're gonna get our big rock and we're gonna lay it directly behind the big rock, entrapping the rope underneath. So as you can see, it creates a type of like a locking mechanism where it locks the tie down rock and the big rock keeps it stable. So this is what we're going to do with our guy lines with the tent. For every tie down point, we basically just did this with the guy lines that it comes with. So boom, 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 you get the point. So you do this to all the tie down points, and then you create tension by moving the rocks, in separate directions. So we can tie down the rock and create tension and yeah, create a stable platform for our tent. So then now you have your shelter up. You feed the stakes in, or not the stakes, the tent poles in, and then you have your awesome shelter set up, held down by some rocks. Now in this one, it has like a wind cover. I put it on, and ideally you get it taut again with using the same method that I just showed you. However, I don't really want to do the whole method again because it takes quite a while, which is why you should practice setting up your tent and getting to know your tent before you're out in the wilderness, as it can be pretty lengthy process if you don't know what you're doing. So now you have your shelter set up and it's quite awesome. Great job. Now you know how to set up a tent in the desert. Excellent job, backpacker. You just got done after a long day of hiking and checking out the beautiful scenery and nature. You set up your shelter, which is huge. I'm super proud of you. And now it's time to get ready for bed. One of the worst things that can happen is having a long day of fun and yet not being able to sleep well, and then not being able to recruit and get ready for the next day. So we have to learn how to stay warm and comfortable at night, which is called sleeping system. So developing a good sleep system will help you sleep well at night and keep you warm. During the nighttime, the earth gets cooled and then the ground gets quite cold. So whenever we're sleeping on the ground, what happens is the cold earth extracts the heat and energy from our body. So in simple terms, whenever we sleep on the ground at night, we lose heat to the earth. So what we have to do is insulate ourselves. So the key way to do that is to have a sleeping pad, mattress, or a sleeping mat, which is like a foam mat. This right here is a sleeping pad. It's a air-blown pad that keeps us off the ground. These help reduce the amount of heat loss you have from the earth, and it's essential to keeping warm during the nighttime, as especially in the desert, when the nighttime comes around, temperatures plummet, which is why we need to be extra prepared for cold weather. We then pair the sleeping pad with the sleeping bag. This is sleeping bag is great at insulating your own body heat and reflecting your body heat back towards you, and protects you from cold and wind. So we add this, the sleeping pad, and our sleeping bag. So that's 2 layers of insulation. The last layer to our sleeping system is our clothing. So whenever we go to bed at night, we want to be warm, however not too warm to where we start sweating. Whenever we sweat, our sweat actually becomes cold from the outside temperature, and it forces our body to exert more energy to cool ourselves down from the sweat. So whenever we go to sleep, we want to wear clothes in the correct amount of layers where we're warm or we're not sweating. So which is why you need to have different layers and different amounts of clothing in order to find the right warmth required for the night. Here we have a simple sleeping system. We have our tent. I have a tarp on the base floor just for extra insulation. Then we have our sleeping pad and our sleeping bag, and then the adequate amount of layers we need for the night. And it's always good to check the temperature beforehand, the weather, or even during, so you can get a good estimate of how cold it will be. Different sleeping bags have different temperature ratings. However, I won't dive too much into that. If you get anything, even cheap sleeping bags with no rating will do well, in my experience, with the proper sleep systems like this. Whew, I'm ready to take a nap. Next item on the list, water and food. So water is definitely by far the most important item to bring and to be conscious of when you go into the wilderness and the desert especially. Now I could go into all different water filtration systems and how to plan water stocks, like stocking up on water while you're out on the trail. However, for the beginner, I would just suggest packing in all the water you're going to need and will use on the trip. As a beginner, you'll only do like one night or 2 night trips, which is definitely manageable, as it is a good rule of thumb to bring 1 gallon of water per person per day. So for 2 days, that's 2 gallons. Yes, it's pretty heavy, however it's essential, and I believe that anyone could do that, and it keeps it nice and simple. You don't have to worry about filtration, and you can do that as you move along, get more experienced, and you don't have to worry about water resources and water restocking. So for water, I would just advise packing a gallon per person per day. So good. As for food, food is, you can be more flexible with food. So you can just, if you don't want to buy a cooking system, which I totally understand, as these are quite expensive, like getting a pot, fuel, and a stove that can range anywhere from $50-$60 to $200. So what you can do is you can make your own freeze-dried food where you don't have to cook it. It can last unrefrigerated for a while, and you can also eat it at any temperature. You can do that if you want to be cost effective, or what you can do is you can buy some of this. You can buy pre-made food where you just add water and you get a fire or a stove, and that's quite costly. Actually, no, not really. These are pretty expensive. Or you can make your own. You prepare your own food at home. And then you can just bring water, a heater, and a what's this called? And a pot. And then you can just heat up the water and like make like a stew or soup or something really simple. So as for food, you can be quite creative with it. You don't even need this cooking system. However, it is nice to have a warm meal at the end of a long day. So yeah, that's it for water and food. Knowing how to start and maintain a fire in any circumstance is essential for survival. And although in the desert there's a high fire warning, so for the most part you won't be using a fire to cook or keep warm. You'll be using like gas stoves. However, it is still extremely important to know how to start a fire and have a fire kit on you. So this is a basic little fire kit I always have with me. And yeah, I'll go review it. Here are the basic parts to a fire kit. Here we have the fire starter. So these are items that can initiate a spark, such as this flint and steel. This knife also comes with a flint tool, which you can create a spark with the knife. And you can also just have a basic lighter, like a Bic lighter. And then here is the tinder. So this is what catches the sparks coming from the fire starters. These catch the sparks and can turn into a flame, in which you can build upon different fuel, such as small twigs, or kindle, and small twigs, and then bigger logs. And so here's some simple ones, like cotton balls are really good at catching a spark. These are called fire sticks. You just shave a piece off in a little pile. Then they catch. Here I have Vaseline inside, so I dab some of this. And Vaseline is just parchment paper towel. Also, a pocket lint works really well. And so and it's always a good rule of thumb to always have at least 3 ways to start a fire. You don't want just rely on one fire starter and one tinder, as this can get wet, or you can lose this. So you always want to have 3 different ways, at least 3 different ways to start a fire. So for example, here's a cotton ball with some Vaseline on it. I'll take my flint and steel, and I'm gonna create a spark. Throw the spark on it. There, now it catches, and there we go. Now we have a flame. And then if I wanted to, I could get, kindle and sticks and bigger fuel to burn it. But I'm also in my backyard. This is not in the desert, so I'm not potentially putting the environment in danger. Yeah, that's just a basic, simple way to start a fire. I'm keeping it simple. There are primitive ways to start a fire, but it takes much more time. But this is just simple, effective. And remember, whenever we put out a fire, it's best to pour water on it and drench it completely, as even though I'm burying it and smothering it, it can still burn underneath the ground for several hours. So make sure to always be careful with fire and put it out completely when you're done. Now this next topic is one of the most complicated and by far the most important, and that is first aid. So first aid can be a whole video on its own, and this little segment should not be a replacement for a first aid course and official training. And I would suggest picking up a first aid book or a pamphlet and at least learning the basics. However, for this segment, I'll teach you basic principles of first aid, and I'll demonstrate 3 common injuries that can occur when you're backpacking in the desert. And for that, I'll have my awesome cousin help demonstrate those scenarios. So let's get into it. First aid at its core is about taking action in which you sustain the safety of everyone involved in the group. Okay, so there's 5 stages to first aid. Number 1 is to assess the situation. Number 2, protect yourself and others. Number 3, assess the casualty. Number 4, deploy early treatment. And number 5, contact authorities. This next clip will be a mock example of how to implement these 5 steps in a first aid scenario. So see if you can identify the steps and the procedures mentioned before. Oh no. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you okay?
No, I think I might have twisted my ankle.
Oh no. What's your favorite football team?
The Cowboys.
This scenario was a trick question. For if the casualty responds with this football team, they are already too far gone and cannot be saved. Leave the premises immediately. But in this next scenario, we will treat a casualty who does not like this football team. Therefore, we can apply all the first aid principles. Oh no. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you okay?
No, I think I might have twisted my ankle.
Oh no. What's your name?
I am Sophie.
Okay. Is this the only injury you had?
Yes, I think that's the only thing.
Okay.
I got some scrapes, but that's basically the main thing.
Okay. Are you a part of a party at all?
No, it's just me.
Okay, cool. Well, I have some first aid if you want me to help you.
Yes, please. That would be very helpful.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. Is that better? Feel better?
Yeah, I think I should be able to walk with some support, but I'm basically
Yeah,
good.
okay. Where's your car parked?
It's at the beginning of the trailhead.
Okay, cool. I can walk you there.
Oh, thanks. That would be appreciated.
Do you need someone to help you drive back?
Probably. I could call my uncle.
Okay, good. Yeah, let's call him when we get back, okay?
Cool.
Awesome. Yay! Now we will be covering the treatment protocol for 3 injuries that can occur on the trail in the desert. Cuts and abrasions are often on the trail, as when we fall, we typically extend our hands out and then we get cuts as we skid across the floor, which can lead to foreign objects and minor bleeding. So what we want to do is we want to clean the area with soap and water, preferably. Then after doing that, we can dry the area with a clean rag, cloth, or t-shirt. And from there, we try to remove any foreign objects still remaining in the affected area. We then clean the area with isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol, and then treat the area with a bandage. The overwhelming intensity of the sun in the desert makes backpackers and hikers prone to heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke occurs when the body is unable to regulate its own body temperature, leading to overheating. When a casualty suffers from this, they will experience vomiting, dizziness, lack of motor function, and potentially death, which is why this injury should be treated with the utmost seriousness. The goal of the first aid caregiver is to reduce the body temperature of the casualty. So the first step is to relocate the casualty to a cooler environment, such as shade or a air controlled environment. And then you want to place them in a comfortable position. Next, you want to douse water on a piece of clothing, whether it be a rag or a blanket, and wrap it around the casualty to help them cool. Then you want to hydrate them adequately, giving them plenty of water. And with the water, you want to also continually douse them with cool water to further help them regulate their body temperature. Make sure to check the casualty's temperature constantly and to call emergency help immediately. Snake bites often occur when a hiker unwittingly steps on or near a snake, leading to the snake biting the hiker in defense. The first step is to take the casualty away from the snake and in a safe spot, keeping the bitten area below the head and shoulders, preventing the venom reaching the heart. Next, you want to wrap the bitten area and close extremities with a medical bandage to help slow the spread of the venom. Then you want to help the casualty find emergency help immediately. Whenever we are traveling in the outdoors or spending the night, we need to be wary of the various wildlife and predators that reside within that biome and environment. Now, whenever we are in the desert, such as where I am right now, one creature or animal that you want to be wary of are snakes, specifically rattlesnakes, as these are venomous serpents who have been known to bite people by accident, as they only bite when they are provoked or feel threatened, and also scorpions and spiders who also bite and sting people in the same way. So one way to make sure that you prevent any fatal interactions with these creatures is to always be cognizant of your surroundings, always be able to hear, as rattlesnakes have a distinct tail made of fingernail-like rings that rattle whenever they feel threatened and are basically signifying to you to go away. So it's always important to have your ears and eyes open when you're traversing the desert, and know that these creatures, both snakes, scorpions, spiders, and creepy crawlies, they like to reside in the shade, much like us, because during the day they like to chill in the shade, kind of like in these areas, right in this like shrubby, grassy area. And during dawn and dusk is when they come out, and is when they sunbathe, and when they also hunt for their prey. So it is always important, and also to look under where your feet are going. Look ahead, look at what is around you. And if you ever hear a rattle from a rattlesnake, stop immediately, check your immediate surroundings, and try to identify where the snake is, or where the general direction of the snake is. And rattlesnakes have really poor eyesight, so don't be alarmed if it accidentally comes towards you. They are not aggressive. They are trying to get away from you. So whenever you see a rattlesnake, slowly go in the opposite direction and then go about your way. And if you do get bit by a snake, or if you do get stung by a scorpion or spider, I will cover that in my first aid section. However, most of the time these are not fatal, and these interactions can be avoided through being cognizant of your environment. Leave no trace. To many, the desert seems like an arid, dry wasteland where there's no life, and it's a place where you can get away with doing destructive habits such as littering, and you can interact with the environment with no real consequences. However, whenever we go backpacking, we must understand that even in the desert, this ecosystem is teeming with life and has a fragile balance to where our single actions can cause immense repercussions for the environment. For example, if you were to look out in this scene, it would seem as if that there is little life, and that if I were to walk around anywhere, it wouldn't harm it. However, if we take a closer look, in arid and desert environments, there is a type of topsoil called cryptobiotic soil. This, if you can look closely, if you see these brownish black, almost ridges or like little mountain ranges on the ground, this is cryptobiotic soil. Now what this is a collection of different fungi, lichens, and different organisms and moss. These form as a protective barrier that protect the soil from the deadly rays of the sun, and also provides nutrients and nitrogen to the roots of plants living below, allowing vegetation to grow in such a harsh environment. So whenever we step foot in the desert, and if we harm this topsoil, it can completely destroy its ability to protect the soil and lead to erosion, which hurts the environment for every animal. So whenever we do backpacking, make sure to practice the rules of leave no trace, which means cleaning up after yourself, making the smallest footprint as you can, only using developed trails so we don't damage any more of the natural environment, picking up after yourself, and always treating the environment with respect. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you made it this far, thanks again. My apologies for the wind noise. It was really bad when I was editing it, so thanks for bearing with me. And this video again was meant for just the absolute beginner. I could spend a whole nother hour talking about each individual section, and this video just scratched the surface on all the information and things that go into each part of backpacking. But hopefully this gets you thinking, this gets you planning, and this gets you out on the trail, and is one step forward to taking your first adventure. So thank you so much, and have a great one, guys.